Hi, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. In our today's series, under the topic Politics of Africa and Historical Antecedents, we go to Liberia to talk about how Charles Taylor escaped assassination but not justice. Charles Ganky Taylor, born 28 January 1948, is a former Liberian politician, a convicted war criminal, and a very brutal and fearless civilian rebel leader of all time, who later brutally served as the 22nd president of Liberia from 2nd August 1997 until he was forced to resign on 11th August 2003 following the Second Liberian Civil War and growing international pressure. Born in Antecedents, Liberia, Charles Taylor earned a degree at Bentley College in the United States of America before returning gallantly to work in the government of the then President Samuel Doe. Taylor highly supported the 12th April 1980 coup led by Samuel Doe and was appointed the Director General of General Services Agency, a position that left him in charge of purchasing for the Liberian government. He was dismissed in May 1983 for embezzling an estimated amount of $1.5 million and transferring the funds into another bank account. Taylor, on sensing danger, an eminent one of course, fled to the United States of America but was arrested on 21st May 1984 by two U.S. deputy marshals in Massachusetts on a warrant for extradition to face charges of embezzling over $1.5 million of government funds. Taylor was detained in Massachusetts after several unsuccessful attempts to fight against extradition. On 15 September 1985, Taylor escaped from the jail. He was later assisted by his wife, Enid, and Taylor's sister-in-law, Lucia, and four other escapees. They drove in a getaway car to Staten Island in New York, where Charles Taylor mysteriously disappeared. All four of the Taylor's fellow escapees, as well as the wife and Lucia, were later apprehended. Charles Taylor escaped the United States without any issues. He then resurfaced in Libya, where he took part in militia training under Muammar Gaddafi of Libya, becoming Gaddafi's protege. He later left Libya and traveled to the Ivory Coast, where he founded the National Patriotic Front of Liberia, NPFL. He was also alleged to travel to Ghana also before moving to Ivory Coast. Now, the Civil War. In December 1989, Taylor launched a Gaddafi-funded armed uprising from the Ivory Coast into Liberia to overthrow the Samuel Doe regime, leading to the First Liberian Civil War. By 1990, his forces controlled most of the country. That same year, Prince Johnson, a senior commander of Taylor's NPFL, broke away and formed the Independent National Patriotic Front of Liberia. In September 1990, Johnson captured Monrovia, depriving Taylor of outright victory. Johnson and his forces captured and tortured Doe to death. This instigated a violent political fragmentation of the country. The Civil War turned into an ethnic conflict with 7 factions among indigenes, that's the indigenous people, and the Americo-Liberians fighting for the control of Liberia's resources, especially the diamond, timber, and rubber. According to one Amos Sawyer, Taylor's inherent aims extended beyond Liberia, that he wanted to re-establish the country of Liberia as a regional power player. Taylor's ambitions, which were held from the Civil War period into his presidency, not only resulted in the domestic Liberian brutal and unprecedented conflict, they also triggered regional instability, which manifested itself in the forms of the Sierra Leone Civil War and unrest in the forest region of Guinea. And it is his irresistible ambition that led to his fall and his name boldly written into the Book of Infamy. After the official end of the Civil War, Liberian Civil War in 1996, Charles Taylor ran for president in the 1997 general election and campaigned on the notorious slogan, I quote, "He killed my ma, he killed my pa, but I will vote for him, unquote. The elections were overseen by the United Nations Peacekeeping Mission, by name United Nations Observer Mission in Liberia, along with a contingent from ECOWAS. Taylor astonishingly won the election in the landslide with 75% of the vote. Although the election was generally regarded as free and fair by the international observers, the indigents felt that it was rather, I quote, free from fair, unquote, because Taylor had significant advantage from the beginning. During the Civil War, he had seized virtually all the country's radio stations and used his control over the Liberians' airwaves to spread propaganda and bolster his image. Additionally, there was widespread fear in the country that Taylor would resume the war if he lost. During his time in office as president, Taylor cut the size of the armed forces of Liberia, dismissing over 2,600 former personnel, many of whom were ethnic Kran brought in by former President Samuel Doe to give advantage to his people. In 1998, Taylor attempted to murder one of his political opponents, the former warlord Roosevelt Johnson, causing clashes in Monrovia, during and after which hundreds of Kran were assassinated and massacred, and hundreds more fled Liberia. This event was one of the factors that led to the outbreak of the Second Liberian Civil War. Charles Taylor committed a lot of atrocities during his reign as president of Liberia, many of which mouths can't utter, ears can't hear, and eyes can't see. His political opponents were his arch-enemies, and other tribes were also not spared. News of killings and cruel amputations were rampant. However, none of this took him to The Hague for trial, but his alleged direct involvement in the Sierra Leone Civil War was what tamed the great lion of Liberia. He was accused of aiding and abetting the Rebel Revolutionary United Front (RUF) through weapon sales in exchange for blood diamonds. During those times, Liberia was mentioned with tears. Sierra Leone was mentioned with tears, and Guinea was mentioned with tears. ECOWAS, realizing this, decided that if Charles Ganky Taylor is the cause, then he needed to resign. As a president, he was known for his flamboyant lifestyle. Upon being charged by the UN of being a gun runner and diamond smuggler during his presidency, he appeared in all white robes and begged God for forgiveness while denying the charges. He was reported to have said that, I quote, Jesus Christ was even accused of being a murderer in his time, unquote. Your guess is as good as mine, my people. The pressure on Taylor to resign became heavier than he could carry. So on the 10th of August 2003, he appeared on national television to announce that he will resign the following day and hand over to Vice President Blair. On 11th of August 2003, Charles Taylor resigned and flew to Nigeria, where the Nigerian government provided houses for him and his entourage in Calabar. In November 2003, a reward offer of $2 million was placed for the capture of Taylor. On 4th December, Interpol issued a red notice regarding Taylor, suggesting that countries had a duty to arrest him. He was placed on Interpol's most wanted list, declaring him wanted for crimes against humanity and breaches of the 1949 Geneva Convention, and noting that he should be considered and treated as a dangerous person. Nigeria stated it will never and not submit to Interpol's demand, but agreeing to deliver Taylor to Liberia only in the event that the president of Liberia requests his return. On 17th March 2006, Ellen Johnson Sirleaf, the newly elected president of Liberia, officially requested for Taylor's extradition to Liberia. This request was granted on 25th March, whereby Nigeria agreed to release Taylor to stand trial in the Special Court for Sierra Leone, SCSL, but would not extradite him because no extradition treaty existed between the two countries. 3 days after Nigeria announced its intent to transfer Taylor to Liberia, he did what he knows best by disappearing mysteriously from the seaside villa where he had been living in exile. On 29 March 2006, Taylor tried to cross the border of Cameroon through the border town of Gamburu in northeastern Nigeria. His Range Rover with Nigerian diplomatic plates was stopped by border guards and his identity was eventually established. Upon his arrival at Roberts International Airport in Liberia, he was arrested and handcuffed by LNP officers who immediately transferred him to the United Nations mission in Liberia. Irish UNMIL soldiers escorted Taylor aboard a UN helicopter to Freetown, Sierra Leone, where he was delivered to the Special Court for Sierra Leone, SCSL. The long-awaited justice has begun. The SCSL prosecutor originally indicted Taylor on the 3rd March 2003 on 17 counts for war crimes and crimes against humanity committed during the conflict in Sierra Leone. On 16 March 2006, a SCSL judge gave leave to amend the indictment against Taylor. Under the amended indictment, Taylor was charged with 11 counts. At his initial appearance before the court on 3rd April 2006, Taylor entered a plea of not guilty. The case then traveled the full haul of the SCSL. The verdict was announced in The Hague on 26 April 2012. The SCSL unanimously ruled that Charles Taylor was guilty of all 11 counts of aiding and abetting war crimes and crimes against humanity. At his trial, Taylor claimed that he was rather a victim and denied all the charges. He was sentenced to 50 years in prison and he was about 64 years of age then at the time of sentencing. On 15 October 2013, Charles Taylor was transferred to British custody and began serving his sentence at HM Prison, Frankland in England. Though he escaped assassination, he could not escape justice. But the question on the lips of many is, what about justice for all the atrocities he committed in Liberia? Please kindly subscribe to my channel, One Forum News, for the best from all over the world. Thank you so much for your patience. Thank you.